She was once the most powerful black CEO in the city, elegant, fearless, and untouchable. But one stormy night changed everything. Now, trapped in a broken body in a house full of shadows, she whispered through tears, "Please, don't hurt me. I can't walk." No one came. No one, except a struggling mechanic who heard her cry and refused to walk away. What started as an act of kindness soon turned into a life-changing twist neither of them saw coming. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe, hit like, and comment your city below, because this story will remind you that sometimes angels come in the most unexpected forms. Rain fell like shattered glass that night, slicing through the glow of the city skyline. Somewhere in the heart of downtown Atlanta, a woman named Naomi Carter sat in her glass-walled office, staring at her reflection. She was 35, a self-made black CEO who had built a multi-million-dollar tech firm from scratch. People called her the Iron Lady, strong, fierce, untouchable. But tonight, her reflection looked tired, broken in a way she had never allowed herself to be. The storm outside mirrored the storm in her life. Her company was on the brink of collapse after a betrayal from within. Her closest business partner, Malcolm Voss, had stolen everything: the contracts, the investors, the very foundation she had built with her own two hands. And worse, he had taken her trust. Naomi leaned back, rubbing her temples as thunder rolled across the skyline. Her assistant had gone home. The building was empty. The city lights below blurred through the tears she refused to let fall. Suddenly, her phone buzzed. A message. It was from Malcolm. "Malcolm, you should have listened when I said don't cross me. Now you'll understand what losing everything feels like." Naomi stared at the screen, her pulse racing. A second message appeared. "Malcolm, enjoy the silence, Naomi. You'll need it." Before she could reply, the office lights flickered. Once, twice, then went out completely. She froze. Her office sat 20 stories above the city, and the only light now came from the storm outside. Her heartbeat thundered in her ears. She reached for her phone flashlight, when suddenly the elevator dinged. Who would be here at this hour? Naomi's instincts screamed run, but her pride anchored her to the chair. The glass doors of her office slid open slowly, too slowly, and a shadow stepped inside. "Who's there?" she said, her voice trembling just enough to betray her fear. No answer. Only the soft click of footsteps against marble. She grabbed the paperweight from her desk, a gift from her mother, and whispered, "Malcolm, if this is some sick game..." A voice cut her off. "Game? Oh no, Naomi. This is justice." Her blood ran cold. Malcolm stepped into the lightning's flicker, drenched in rain, his eyes wild with something unrecognizable. He moved closer, calm, deliberate, as though the storm itself obeyed his rhythm. "What do you want?" she demanded. He smiled. "You took what was mine. Now I'm taking what's yours." Before she could move, he shoved her, hard, into the glass. The sound of shattering filled the room. The world spun, and then everything went black. Weeks later, when Naomi opened her eyes again, the world was quiet. Too quiet. The antiseptic smell burned her nose. White walls surrounded her. Machines beeped softly beside her bed. She tried to sit up, but her body refused to move. A nurse hurried over, her face kind but serious. "Miss Carter, please." "Take it slow," Naomi's voice cracked. "What happened to me?" The nurse hesitated. "You were attacked. You fell from a glass wall. The doctors managed to save you. But your spine..." Naomi stopped breathing for a second. "My spine?" The nurse looked away. "You can't walk, Miss Carter. I'm so sorry." Tears pooled in Naomi's eyes, but her pride held them back, until the nurse left. Then she broke. The Iron Lady was gone. All that was left was a woman who couldn't move, who couldn't stand, who couldn't even protect herself. Days turned into weeks. Her so-called friends disappeared. The media painted her as careless. The fallen CEO who pushed too far. Malcolm had vanished, leaving no trail. By the time Naomi returned to her penthouse, she was alone. Her mother had passed years ago. Her father was a ghost in another state. The house, once a symbol of power, now felt like a prison. She hired a nurse to help, For 3 days only, until Naomi convinced herself she didn't need anyone. She would do this alone. She always had. But the silence of her house became unbearable. The wheelchair creaked with every move, mocking her. She dropped things she couldn't pick up. The shower was impossible. The stairs might as well have been mountains, and then came the worst moment. The night she fell. It was raining again. Naomi tried to reach the phone, but it had fallen off the table. Her wheelchair had tipped. She was on the floor, gasping, crying, whispering, "Please, someone help me. Please don't hurt me. I can't walk." But no one came. Hours passed. Her voice grew hoarse. She drifted in and out of consciousness, shivering. Then, faintly, she heard knocking at the door. The mechanic. The sound was steady. 3 knocks, paused, then again. "Hello?" A deep voice called. "Ma'am, you okay? Your lights keep flickering." Naomi tried to answer but could barely speak. The man outside called again, louder. "Ma'am?" "I'm from down the street. I fix engines." "I saw your porch light blinking," she tried again. "Help." He heard it that time. Within seconds, the door burst open. A tall, broad-shouldered man in a faded work jacket rushed inside. Marcus Reed, a single father and auto mechanic who worked nights. His face was rough from long shifts, but his eyes were gentle, wide with concern. He dropped to his knees beside her. Hey, I got you. Don't move. I'm calling 911. Naomi's trembling hand gripped his sleeve. Don't hurt me." He froze, confused, then looked at her bruises, her tear-streaked face, her chair overturned nearby. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said softly. "You're safe now." His voice carried something she hadn't heard in months. Sincerity. He stayed with her until the ambulance arrived. He waited in the rain, and when she was released days later, he came by again, not for thanks, but because he genuinely cared. Each day, he fixed something small. Her broken door, her leaky faucet. The cracked tiles she could no longer reach. Naomi didn't trust easily. She barely spoke. But something about him, his patience, his quiet presence, began to chip away at her walls. The unlikely bond by. The 3rd week, Naomi found herself waiting for his knock. He never asked for money. He always brought food for her. Sometimes his little daughter Layla tagged along, her laughter echoing through the house like sunlight. Slowly, Naomi's world began to move again. Not with her legs, but with her heart. She started telling him things she had buried for years, about her struggles as a black woman in corporate America, about being underestimated, about fighting alone. Marcus listened like her words mattered. One evening she said quietly, "You don't have to keep helping me, Marcus." He smiled. "Yeah, I do. 'Cause if I was the one on that floor, you'd have helped me too." For the first time in a long time, Naomi smiled back, but peace never lasts long for those who've known pain. Because one rainy night, the same night her strength started to return, she received a message that shattered her new calm. A text. From a blocked number. "Miss me, Naomi?" Her blood froze. Malcolm. And from that moment, the past she thought she escaped came back to finish what it started. The days after that message felt heavy, like the air itself was watching her. Naomi tried to tell herself it was nothing, a glitch, a wrong number. But her gut knew better. Malcolm wasn't finished with her. She sat by the window as rain slid down the glass, her wheelchair still, her eyes locked on the city lights below. The same city that once praised her now whispered her downfall. Her company gone, her confidence fractured, and somewhere out there, the man who had broken her, still free. She read the text again. "Miss me, Naomi." 3 words, but they carried the echo of everything she had survived. Naomi pressed delete, but the sound of the message alert haunted her long after. That evening, when Marcus arrived, she didn't mention it. He came with his usual quiet smile and a bag of food, fried chicken, collard greens, and cornbread his daughter Layla had helped him make. "You didn't have to," she began. He chuckled. "Naomi, every time you say that, I ignore you." "So, save your breath." She smiled despite herself. They ate together at the small table by the window. Layla colored nearby, humming softly. The smell of rain mixed with warm food made the house feel alive again. something Naomi hadn't felt in a long time. After dinner, Marcus replaced the broken light in her hallway, then knelt beside her wheelchair. "You've been practicing your therapy?" Naomi hesitated. "A little," he gave her that look, half stern, half kind. "You told me you don't give up easy." "So prove it." Her lips curved in a faint smile. "You sound like my old mentor." "Good," he said. "Then I'm doing something right." He helped her through the gentle exercises, steadying her legs, guiding her hands. His touch was careful, respectful, the kind of gentleness born from real empathy. Naomi hadn't realized how much she needed that. Not pity, but patience. When she finished, he whispered, "See? You're stronger than you think." Her eyes glistened. "You don't know what I've been through." Marcus leaned back, thoughtful. "Maybe not, but I know pain when I see it. And I know strength, too. You've got both." Those words lingered long after he left. It was past midnight when Naomi heard it again, the buzz of her phone. Another message. "Unknown. You really thought I wouldn't find you?" Her stomach twisted. She tried to call the police, but the number was untraceable. They told her to stay calm, that without proof of physical threat, there's nothing we can do. She hung up, heart pounding. Outside, thunder rolled again, the same sound from that night. She shut the curtains and locked the door, but even then, she felt eyes on her. In the reflection of the window, she thought she saw movement, a shape in the rain. Her hands trembled as she whispered to herself, "You won't take my peace again." She wheeled herself to the living room, grabbed the diary she had begun writing again, therapy, her counselor had suggested, and started writing down every thought, every fear, every strength she was trying to rebuild. The next morning, Marcus showed up early. "You okay?" he asked gently. "You look like you haven't slept." Naomi hesitated, then decided, maybe for the first time in her life, to tell someone the truth. She showed him the texts. Marcus's jaw tightened. "You think it's him?" "I know it is." He looked out the window, scanning the street. His voice lowered. "I'm not letting anything happen to you." "Not again," Naomi blinked. "Marcus, you don't have to." "I do." He looked back at her. "You helped me too, Naomi. You don't even know it." Her brow furrowed. "What do you mean?" He exhaled. "After my wife passed, I stopped caring about everything. The shop, my daughter, myself. But coming here, fixing little things, it gave me a reason again. You made me remember I still matter." The words hit her like sunlight breaking through clouds. For the first time, she saw him not as a rescuer, but as someone quietly carrying his own pain. That night, she couldn't stop thinking about what he said. Echoes of fear. A few days passed peacefully. Naomi began her physical therapy again. Layla came over with drawings she made for her Auntie Naomi. The laughter returned. The walls of her home started to feel less like a cage. But then, something changed. Marcus noticed it first. The faint tire tracks by her driveway. The sound of an engine idling late at night. "Probably just neighbors," Naomi said. Though her voice betrayed her doubt, he didn't argue. But that night, he parked his truck a few houses down and waited. Just past 1 a.m., a black sedan stopped in front of Naomi's house. The engine turned off. A man stepped out. Marcus's chest tightened. He couldn't see the face clearly, just a tall, lean silhouette in a trench coat. The man walked toward the porch, paused by the door, then slipped something into the mail slot. Then he left. Marcus waited until he was gone before going to check. Inside the envelope was a single photo, Naomi, taken from outside her window, and a note. "You can't hide from what you owe me." Marcus felt the rage boil in his chest. He took the note to Naomi the next morning. She froze when she saw it. "He's watching me again." Marcus clenched his fists. Not anymore. Strength rising. The days that followed tested Naomi's will. She refused to let fear own her. Marcus installed security cameras. He checked in every evening after work, bringing warmth back into her lonely house. Together, they built a new rhythm. She worked remotely on a new project, something small, but hers again. He fixed her ramp, her lights, her faith in people, little by little. Naomi began to heal, not just physically, but emotionally. One evening, She told Marcus about the first time she met Malcolm, how he had seemed charming, supportive, how she ignored the red flags because she wanted to believe someone could understand her ambition without fearing it. Marcus listened silently. His eyes soft. When she finished, she said, "He took everything from me." Marcus shook his head. "No, he took what you built, not who you are." That night, Naomi wrote a single sentence in her diary. "My body may be broken, but my spirit isn't." It was the first time she had believed it. The breaking point, but healing isn't a straight path. One late evening, Naomi wheeled into her living room to grab her phone and froze. The front door was open. The night air swept in, cold and wet. "Marcus," she called out, her voice shaking. No answer. She reached for the call button on her chair, but her phone was gone. Then she heard it, the slow creak of footsteps behind her. She turned. A shadow moved through the hallway. Naomi. Her heart stopped. She knew that voice. Malcolm stepped into the dim light, older, rougher, but with the same cruel smile. "Miss me?" Naomi's hands trembled. "How did you—" "I never left," he said, circling her like a predator. "You ruined me, Naomi. I made you, and you left me to rot." Her breath quickened. "You attacked me. You tried to kill me," he chuckled. "You were always dramatic." She pressed her chair's emergency button, but Malcolm kicked it away. "You really think anyone's coming?" Suddenly, a voice boomed from the doorway. "Yeah, I am." Marcus stood there, fists clenched, rain dripping from his jacket. Malcolm turned, sneering. "And who are you?" "The help?" Marcus didn't answer. He moved forward slowly, eyes locked on him. "Leave now," Malcolm laughed. "You think she's yours?" "She'll drop you like she did me." He didn't finish the sentence before Marcus slammed him back against the wall. Naomi shouted, "Marcus, stop!" Malcolm stumbled, eyes wild. "You'll regret this." Marcus didn't move. His voice was low, steady. "No, you will." He called the police, holding Malcolm there until they arrived. When the officers took him away, Malcolm's voice echoed through the rain. "This isn't over." Naomi sat frozen, shaking, but safe. The aftermath hours later, the house was silent again. Marcus sat with Naomi, his hand gently resting over hers. "You're safe now," he whispered. Naomi looked at him, really looked, and for the first time, she saw not just a mechanic, not just a man who helped, but someone who stayed when the world didn't. She whispered, "You saved me twice." He shook his head. "You saved yourself. I just reminded you that you could." That night, Naomi wrote her final diary entry. "Pain doesn't define me. Strength does. I lost everything and found something real in return." The rain finally stopped. The first light of dawn touched her face through the window. Days turned into weeks, and the woman who once whispered, "Please don't hurt me," now stared at her reflection with a new kind of fire. Amara Lewis, the black CEO the city once worshipped and then pitied, was no longer broken, and she had Darius Cole to thank for it. A plan forged in silence, it started small. Every morning, Darius showed up with a mug of coffee and the same words, "You're still you, Ms. Lewis. Don't forget that." He repaired her wheelchair, tightened loose bolts, and adjusted the motor. But more importantly, he fixed something else, her belief that she still mattered. He never treated her like she was fragile. He treated her like she was human. And with that, Amara began to heal. She started taking calls again, reconnecting with board members who once avoided her. She spoke in calm, strategic tones, never revealing the pain she carried. Behind her polite smile, a storm brewed, because Elliot, the husband who betrayed her, was getting sloppy. He thought she was too broken to notice the transfer of funds, the falsified signatures, the secret meetings. But she had friends in high places, silent allies who owed her favors, and with Darius's help, she had a plan. The call that changed everything, one evening, while Darius worked on her wheelchair in the corner, her phone buzzed again. "Elliot," she answered, her voice steady this time. "Elliot," he sounded annoyed. "Why are you answering my calls like I'm a stranger?" "Listen, the board wants me to take over interim operations. It's better this way." Amara's lips curved into a faint smile. "Oh, I agree. It's much better this way. Elliot paused. Wait, what do you mean? I mean, she said softly, you should be at the office tomorrow. The board will want to see your leadership in action, he chuckled. Finally. You're coming to your senses. Yes, she whispered. Finally. When the call ended, she turned to Darius. You sure about this? He asked. Amara's eyes glinted. I've been sure since the night he forgot to hang up that call. The boardroom showdown. The next day, Amara entered the Alaron Tech headquarters for the first time since the accident. The hall went silent. People stared, not in pity this time, but in awe. She rolled her wheelchair through the glass doors with quiet grace, dressed in a black power suit that shimmered under the lights. Elliot was already there, sitting at the head of the table like he owned it. Amara, he said smoothly, standing to greet her. You look… Well, I am, she said simply. And you look nervous. The board members exchanged uneasy glances. Then, Amara placed a folder on the table. Inside were printed screenshots, text messages, fake transfer documents, and one damning transcript, the recording of that night's phone call. Elliot's face went pale. What is this? It's the truth, she said, her tone sharp. You plotted against your own wife. You stole company assets. You lied to shareholders. And you did it while sleeping with an intern who helped you falsify documents. He swallowed hard. You can't prove any of that. Oh, she smiled coldly. I already did. The recording was retrieved from a cloud backup, and the board has heard every word. She nodded toward the speaker at the end of the table. Elliot's own voice echoed through the room. She can't even walk. She's basically useless now. Once I move her shares into my name, I'm out. Silence. Then a murmur swept through the board. A man who once commanded every room was now trembling in front of one he could no longer control. Amara looked him dead in the eye. You forgot to hang up, Elliot. That mistake cost you everything. Security entered moments later, led by corporate counsel. Elliot lunged forward, desperate. Amara, please. You don't understand. But she raised her hand. No, you don't understand. You taught me that silence is safety. You were wrong. Speaking up, that's freedom. As he was escorted out, his voice cracked. You'll regret this. But Amara didn't even flinch. Her hand shook slightly on the wheels of her chair, but her heart felt lighter than it had in years. Darius was waiting outside the boardroom, leaning against the wall, watching everything unfold through the glass. When she rolled toward him, he grinned. Looks like you fixed more than your company, he said softly. She smiled faintly. And you fixed more than my wheelchair. The morning after the next morning, sunlight spilled into her penthouse. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was peaceful. Darius came by carrying 2 cups of coffee. Thought you'd want the good stuff. You've earned it. Amara looked out the window at the city that had once felt so cruel. I used to think strength was about never falling, she said quietly. But it's really about standing back up, even if you have to use wheels to do it. He chuckled. Then you're the strongest person I know. For a moment they stood, 2 souls from different worlds, united by pain, healed by kindness. Then the moral. Sometimes the people who hurt you will try to convince the world that you're broken. But broken doesn't mean finished. Broken means rebuilt differently. And sometimes God sends help not in shining armor, but in dirty coveralls and a kind smile. Because real heroes don't always fix cars. Sometimes they fix people. The city looked different now. Maybe it was the light, softer, warmer. Or maybe it was her eyes that had changed. Amara Lewis, once the broken CEO who cried alone in her penthouse, now rolled confidently through the glass doors of Alaron Tech with purpose, not pain. The whispers had stopped. The pity had disappeared. Now, when people looked at her, they didn't see weakness. They saw resilience. A new vision a month had passed since Elliot's arrest and the board's unanimous vote to reinstate her as full CEO. The company had been shaken. But Amara wasn't interested in revenge anymore. She wanted rebirth. She stood before her staff that morning, microphone in hand, her voice steady and warm. When I first built this company, she began, I wanted to prove I belonged in a world that told me I didn't. But now I know. You don't need to prove your worth to anyone who can't see it. She paused, letting the silence breathe. We're relaunching Alaron Tech not just as a business, but as a movement. One that builds accessibility and inclusion into everything we create. Because strength isn't about walking tall. It's about rising together. The room erupted into applause. Her employees, men and women, young and old, many inspired by her story, stood to their feet. Amara smiled, her heart swelling. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like a survivor. She felt like a leader. The mechanic's gift that evening, as the building emptied, Amara wheeled herself to the garage. The sound of humming and metal clinks echoed through the space. Darius Cole was there, wiping grease off his hands, that familiar gentle grin on his face. "Miss CEO," he teased. "You're supposed to be celebrating, not hanging out with me in a garage," she smirked. "You'd be surprised how many deals start in garages," he laughed. "Fair point. You look happy, though." "I am." She watched him adjust the settings on her wheelchair, a sleek, custom upgrade he'd been secretly working on. He looked up shyly. "It's voice-activated now. Figured you shouldn't have to wait on anyone to help you move." Her eyes softened. "You think of everything," he shrugged. "Just fixing what's broken." Amara's gaze lingered on him, the way he spoke so humbly, the way his hands were rough but his heart so gentle. "Darius," she said quietly, "you didn't just fix a chair. You helped me remember who I was," he smiled faintly, "and you reminded me why I started fixing things in the first place." Letting go of the past. Later that night, she stood at the edge of her penthouse balcony. The city glowed beneath her, every light a heartbeat, every sound a reminder that life went on. She took a deep breath, pulled a small velvet box from her lap, and opened it. Inside lay her wedding ring, the symbol of a love that had turned to chains. "Goodbye, Elliot," she whispered, her voice neither bitter nor broken. Then she let the ring fall. It disappeared into the dark, swallowed by the city that had once swallowed her, but this time she didn't feel empty. She felt free. The conversation that changed everything a few days later. She invited Darius to lunch, not in her office, but in a quiet little cafe by the water. He looked out of place at first, surrounded by businessmen and polished marble tables, but Amara made him feel at home. "Do you ever think about what's next?" she asked. He grinned. "Next? Probably fixing another flat tire somewhere," she laughed. "I mean for you, Darius." "For your life," he shrugged. "Never thought that far. I just help where I can," she leaned in. "What if you helped here, at Alaron?" He blinked. "Me? In your company?" "You have something no degree can teach," she said. "Integrity. Empathy. I'm starting a new division focused on assistive tech for the disabled. And I need someone who sees beyond profit." He stared at her, speechless. "Amara, I fix engines, not people," she smiled. "Then you're exactly who I need." Healing the heart weeks passed. Darius joined the team, quietly, humbly, refusing any fancy title. He became the heart of her new initiative, the one who reminded the office that progress was about people, not just products, and somewhere between late nights, coffee breaks and shared laughter, something deeper began to grow. It wasn't the kind of love that burned fast and loud. It was gentle, healing, the kind that felt like home. One evening, as they left the office together, Darius walked beside her in silence. Then he stopped, looked down, and said softly, "You know, I never met someone who made broken look so beautiful." Amara's eyes filled with tears, not of pain this time, but gratitude. "That's because you never stopped seeing the whole picture," she whispered. They didn't need to say anything else. The wind carried the rest, the moral when life breaks you. People will tell you to move on, but healing isn't about forgetting what hurt you. It's about finding meaning in what remains. Amara learned that her wheelchair didn't define her limits. It defined her strength. And Darius learned that kindness, when given freely, can rewrite another person's destiny, because sometimes the miracle you're praying for doesn't come in grand gestures. It comes as a stranger with rough hands and a gentle soul, and when their paths cross, lives change forever. She once whispered, "Please don't hurt me." But today, she speaks with power, because love, the kind born from kindness, heals deeper than any wound ever could. Months had passed since that stormy night. The night everything changed. The woman who once whispered, "Please don't hurt me," now commanded rooms with her voice alone. Amara Lewis, the woman the world pitied, had become a symbol of strength for thousands. Her story was everywhere, not as a tragedy, but as a testament. At the annual Alaron Foundation Gala, flashes of light filled the room. Cameras clicked, reporters whispered. But Amara wasn't thinking about headlines. She was thinking about how far she'd come. She took the stage slowly, her sleek wheelchair gleaming under the golden lights. The audience rose in a standing ovation before she even spoke. She smiled, calm, radiant, unstoppable. "When I lost my ability to walk," she began, her voice gentle but steady, "I thought I lost everything, my freedom, my power, even my worth." A hush fell over the crowd. But then someone reminded me that broken doesn't mean finished. It means rebuilt. And sometimes God doesn't give you back what you lost. He gives you something better. Perspective, purpose, peace. Her eyes found Darius, standing quietly at the back, his arms folded, pride glowing in his eyes. "To everyone who's ever been told they can't, this is your reminder that you still can." Maybe not in the same way as before, but in a way the world's never seen before. The audience erupted. Cameras flashed, but Amara's eyes stayed on Darius. Later, when the hall emptied and the music faded, she found him waiting by the doors. He grinned softly. "Didn't know CEOs give sermons now," she laughed. "Didn't know mechanics could change lives," he shrugged. "Guess we're both full of surprises." Amara looked out the window, the city alive beneath them, and whispered, "For the first time in a long time, I don't feel afraid." Darius tilted his head. "Afraid of what?" "Of being seen," she said. "Of being loved." There was a pause, soft, delicate. Then he reached out and gently took her hand. "You were never hard to love, Amara," he said quietly. "You just needed someone to see past the pain." Tears welled in her eyes, not of sadness, but release. For the first time since the accident, she didn't feel broken. She felt whole. Alaron Tech had become more than a company. It was a movement. Their newest innovation, designed by Amara and Darius together, was launched globally, a voice-controlled, fully adaptive wheelchair that empowered independence for thousands. The campaign slogan read, "We rise, no matter how we fall." In interviews, Amara always credited one person. "He didn't come from my world, but he reminded me what humanity looks like." Darius never liked the spotlight, but sometimes at night, when they watched the city lights from her balcony, he'd say with a smile, "Guess we both learned something, huh?" Amara would nod. "Yeah, that strength isn't about walking away. It's about rolling forward, with faith, with grace, and with love. No matter how far you fall, you are never too broken to rise." Healing doesn't erase the scars, it turns them into proof of survival. And sometimes the angels we pray for don't come from heaven. They come from the most unexpected places, like a single mechanic who saw the soul of a woman the world had forgotten.